Our next speaker is a very, very special young man, and I'll predict somebody that has a very bright future. Please join me in welcoming Franklin Egboh.
We're at a library event, so I'm guessing many of you like stories. Good, I have one. I like to tell you one, a true story, my story. My story of how the library has helped me ever since I moved to the United States. I was born and raised in Nigeria. For me, growing up in Nigeria was a mixed experience. Some parts were really wonderful and beautiful. Other parts were very challenging. My three sisters and my parents are my family, and we moved to the United States for one thing: opportunity. Many East Africans seek refuge in the United States because of war, but that was not the case for my family. Opportunity. We saw opportunity to make a better life. How many of you grew up driving a car with a manual transmission? A lot. You've got the gears, the clutch, the shifting, right? There's a lot to constantly think about, and it's not easy. I like to say, growing up in Nigeria is like driving a car with a manual transmission. It's not easy, and you're always working at it. In contrast, living in the United States is like driving an automatic transmission. You get it, and the car goes. In Nigeria, families look out for one another. There's always a challenge around the corner. One day, you think some days are fine, and the next day you think the world is gonna come to an end. Maybe a neighbor gets into an accident, and immediately you put their needs before yours. Some days there's a lot of food, and the next day there's no food at all. There's very little resources in Nigeria. There's not much to nurture talent. There's very little computers, very little technology. Many students my age in the United States have all their schoolwork on flash drives, computers, laptops. In contrast, I have a pile of notebooks from my life in Nigeria. My parents began a journey, like many do, to give me and my sisters a better life, to take advantages of the resources available in this great country. I was in shock the first week I moved to the United States. I knew very little English, but I had a very thick accent, and only few people could understand me. My first week, my sisters and I ventured out very little. My mom insisted that we leave the house. She told us to go to the library, saying, "This is the first place you all need to go." We walked to Douglas Street Branch Library. I remember walking in and looking around, seeing rows and rows of computers. We had barely nothing like that in Nigeria. I stared in awe. I went downstairs to see even more. There was a lot of space. The place was huge to me. I summoned the courage to go to the librarian and ask about the computers. They signed me up and showed me how to log in and gave me a library card. Then I just stared at the screen. I didn't really know what to do next. I just stared at it. Slowly, I started browsing. I looked up soccer feeds, read about the Champions League. I'm a huge soccer fan. From that day on, my sisters and I went to the library every single day. I learned how to type at the library. I would watch the librarians type really fast, and I wanted to do that. A librarian showed me a program called Mavis Beacon, and that's how I learned how to type. I also started using Microsoft Office for the first time. I discovered an online dictionary, and I started looking up words. For the first time, I was not using a giant dictionary, a physical one. I would Google words and learn how to pronounce them. I started to work on my accent, my American accent. My mom was incredibly supportive. I was self-conscious of the way I sounded around people and that people couldn't understand me well. It was frustrating, and it was a challenge my entire family faced. People made fun of me. They made fun of the way I spoke. My mom gave me some great advice. She encouraged me to learn the English language, but I should not forget my accent because it defines who I am and where I come from. Be proud, she would say, and know that people who only speak one language have very little room to criticize. So I began to learn English, and I was at the library all the time. So you're probably wondering, how long has this been? How long has Franklin been in the United States? Well, I'm proud to say that I've only been in the United States for 3.5 years. And in that time, the library has been one of the most important resources to help me learn. If there's one thing the library does really well, it's this: customer service. You know, with most businesses, you walk in, you buy something, you get something, and you leave. Some businesses care about customer service. They're good at it. Some don't. I worked at a sandwich shop, which, by the way, I discovered by a posting at the library. From that experience, I could tell that some businesses don't really care much about customer service, and some managers don't care about how they treat their employees well either. But the library is very different. They provide amazing service. Being an immigrant is challenging, but people at the library go out their way to ensure that they help you. One time I needed to print something at the library. I didn't have enough money. A librarian took care of me. Another time, I misplaced a book and later on found it. Again, a librarian took care of all my finds. To me, there's also a difference between the way teachers teach me and the way librarians help me. I love school. I tend to be a very curious person. With teachers, they teach a class because it's an area of interest for them, and they love teaching it. They have a curriculum, they teach a class, they set an exam, give it to a wide variety of students, which each and every one of them has different skills. And I understand that. But sometimes they do not have the capacity to put the students' interests first. I had a hard time in history. Understanding the US Constitution was very difficult. I would stay after school and ask my teacher questions. He would get frustrated at me because I had so many questions. But going to the library is different. When I ask a librarian a question, they listen and they connect me with the information that I wanted to learn. It's more about my interests. I also started to use homework help program. Homework help is where volunteers come to the library after school to help students. I used this program daily. Homework help is amazing. What I liked best is that the volunteers took interest in me as a person. They would ask me about my day, my life, and my interests. That meant so much to me. It was a very different experience than I had in school. They would take the time to understand where I was coming from and where I was headed to, and they would help me get there. I started participating in everything that the library offered. As you've heard today, the library is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Summer of Learning program. This program had a huge impact in my life. During the summer, I started participating in a program called Storyhood, where you learn to write code using an iPad. I quickly discovered that I love coding. It introduced me to Python, which is a computer coding language. I learned that Python was just one of the many coding languages, and I discovered it could be fun, rewarding, challenging and rewarding to see your codes come to life. I worked in teams and met friends along the way. I also participated in service learning projects at the library. Ayan, whom you've met at today's opening event, has been one of the most influential people in my life. Back then, Ayan was a service librarian at Douglas Truth. Ayan told me about the service learning program. She invited me and some of my friends to take part in it. We had to do a project. The topic, it was up to us to decide. Ayan knew that we understood our community better than anyone. The goal of the project needed to help our neighbors in some way, and we were empowered to choose a topic. Given how much homework help meant to all of us, we created a training for homework help volunteers across the library system. We called our training "What Students Want Volunteers to Know: Perspective on African Culture." Ayan taught us how to set goals, how to do our research, how to evaluate our progress. We learned so much while doing this. We gave the training to more than 80 volunteers who showed up to learn from us. It was the first time I ever gave a public presentation. Till this day, I am no longer shy about raising my hand in class or in public. I know that people can hear me. They listen to me, and I know I have something to offer. Librarians like Ayan are so much more than librarians. They're teachers, they're mentors, they're coaches. They're people who care so much about us. It was also through Ayan that I discovered about other organizations that can help me. When I was 17, I got an internship with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation doing research in their knowledge management division. I could go on and on about how the library has helped me, but suffice to say, from 10th to 12th grade, the library was the key to my success. Because of the library, I have found my community and my friends. Because of the library, I got the help I needed to graduate from high school. Because of the library, I am inspired to pursue a career in computer science. Because of the library, I am a confident speaker. Because of the library, I got a dream internship. Because of the library, I found my mentor. If you think that the library just offers books, I hope my story illustrates how mistaken you are. It is so much more. Library programs and librarians have helped me grow each and every single day that I arrived to this country. If I have one request of you today, it's this: support your library. I am one of thousands of kids who benefit from the library programs. When you hear that the library offers 11,000 events, activities, classes, please know how powerful these are. You're looking at a person who has taken advantages of them and has learned so much. Today, I am on a path to a successful career. I am participating in the Year Up Youth Development Program, and I have an internship at Redfin. I still visit the library nearly every day. A few months ago, I even got a part-time job shelving books while I attend school. People like you are helping to provide families with the opportunity that my parents dreamed about when we came to the United States. I appreciate your support with my whole heart. My biggest thank you to all of you, and my special thank you to the library. Thank you.